Mr. Vice President, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you for having me here at this historic room. Let's talk about the economic data first off. 4.1% growth. Your reaction? We were expecting a big number.
Well, it's a great day for America. See in the second quarter 4.1% growth. Exports growing dramatically. That added to the reality of 3.7 million new jobs created since Election Day 2016. I couldn't be more proud to serve alongside a president who's been working every day to keep the promise he made to the American people, to roll back red tape, to cut taxes, unleash American energy. And I think this 4.1% quarter and a year that's on track for more than 3% growth is a testament to the president's leadership and his vision for this economy.
What were the most important takeaways from this quarter? A lot of conversation about whether or not this is a one-quarter thing or whether or not we're going to see this sustain.
Well, it's important to recognize in context that the reality is in the last two administrations, the economy grew by less than 2%. And in the first 18 months of this administration, we were a little shy of 3% last year. We're on track to be at 3% or better this year. And we really believe the internals of these numbers, whether it be the dramatic increase in business investment, a dramatic increase in American exports, all support the conclusion that the policies that President Trump has been advancing, that a Republican Congress has been supporting, are actually working to revive this economy. But you sense real momentum. You know, I was in North Dakota and Montana this week, and West Virginia just a couple of days ago. And you sense out on the street, talking to everyday Americans, talking to business leaders, that the best is yet to come, that these numbers tell the tale, but the enthusiasm and the confidence all across this country among business leaders and businesses large and small tells the same story and more.
Mr. Vice President, how much of this quarter was goosed by businesses trying to get ahead of the president's tariffs? There is a narrative out there that China, for example, was rushing to buy more soybeans, buy crude oil and other commodities so that they would get ahead of the president's tariffs that haven't taken effect yet.
Well, we've heard that theory, but the reality is when you look at the whole quarter, American exports were up by more than 9%. And our trade deficit was down by $50 billion. You know, you heard the president say on Friday just how enthusiastic he was about seeing our trade deficit coming down. And we really think we're just getting started. So we don't believe this was a reaction to the president's strong leadership in renegotiating our trade relationships. A great breakthrough this last week with the European Union. Now the United States and the EU are going to begin working toward a trade arrangement that has zero tariffs, zero non-tariff barriers, and really opens up commerce between our two countries in new and in renewed ways, as well as having the EU commit to immediately begin to buy more soybeans from American farmers. So we think we're seeing real progress. We don't think this was an anomaly. We think American exports are on the rise as a reflection of a strong economy and, frankly, a reflection of the president's strong leadership on improving our trade relationships for American jobs and American workers.
When do you expect the president will be able to announce another solid official trade deal? Will you be able to announce trade deals before the midterm elections, for example?
Well, we're very encouraged about the progress that we're making in discussions about the North American Free Trade Agreement. I know the U.S. Trade Representative continues to believe that there's a possibility that before we get to Labor Day, we may have a reformed NAFTA agreement. But those details are still being worked out. But look, the president came into this administration with the belief that for too long, Americans, our economy, our workers have been taken advantage of by imbalanced trade deals. And whether it be in renegotiating South Korea, whether it be opening up markets to American exports and agricultural goods, renegotiating NAFTA, or resetting the balance in our relationship with the European Union, and of course, resetting the balance or huge imbalance with China. We really believe that kind of strong leadership on behalf of American jobs and workers is actually contributing to the momentum that we saw in these second quarter numbers.
Do you think you'll have a deal with Mexico by Labor Day?
Well, we remain hopeful that in the coming months that we'll be able to reach an agreement. But I can assure you that President Trump's going to continue to stay focused on American manufacturing and American agriculture, and we're going to renegotiate NAFTA in a way that's a win for working Americans in the city and on the farm.
Mr. Vice President, some lawmakers criticized the meeting with the EU and Mr. Juncker. 24 lawmakers said that this is impacting their chances of re-election come November. You've got Andy Barr, for example, in Kentucky, saying, well, the bourbon makers in Kentucky are being hurt by the retaliatory tariffs out of Europe. You've got Mr. Huzanga of Michigan complaining about high raw material prices. Is this going to impact those races?
We think a better trade relationship with the European Union, a more fair, more reciprocal trade relationship, is going to benefit every American. And look, we respect members of Congress. It's remarkable to think all the progress that we've made in the last 18 months has been made in partnership with Republican majorities, but it's been against an unprecedented level of Democrat obstruction. It is amazing to think, just as an aside, Maria, that in the last year and a half, our administration has faced more filibusters called by Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate by a factor of 4 times more than any administration going all the way back to the Carter administration. So we respect members of Congress. We respect them standing up for interest in their district. But we're grateful for the support they provided for the president's agenda, and we remain confident that as we reset the balance in those trading relationships, that it's going to win for their districts and win for America.
But the lack of Democratic support brings me to my next question, which is about Tax Cuts 2.0. Now, you're working on another plan to lower taxes, trying to make the individual cuts permanent. But is this just a ploy to make sure to remind the American people that yours is the party of tax cuts right before the midterm elections? Because the truth is, you're not going to get any Democratic support for that. Or do you really believe this economy needs more stimulus?
You know, President Trump and I have worked very closely with the Republican leadership to fashion Tax Cuts 2.0. The reality is that before Christmas last year, President Trump signed the largest tax cuts and tax reform in American history. And I think the enthusiasm that you see among everyday Americans, the investment that we saw in this last quarter by American businesses, is an affirmation of that tax cut package that was passed. But President Trump absolutely believes it's important that we make tax cuts permanent. We're going to work with members of Congress to move this legislation forward, even as it's unveiled in the coming weeks. And I promise you, in the years ahead, President Trump is going to continue to look for ways we can let the American people keep more of what they earn, and we can create the kind of reforms in our tax code that will encourage businesses to invest here and create jobs here in the USA.
The president recently tweeted about the Federal Reserve, and he said, you know, it's crazy that the Federal Reserve is going to be raising interest rates. If the economy is so great, why not raise interest rates?
Well, look, we respect the independence of the Federal Reserve, and the president reflected his own personal opinion about that. But what we don't want to see happen going forward is we don't want policies, whether Capitol Hill or elsewhere, that diminish the tremendous energy that we have in this economy today. Look, as I said before, as I travel across this country, you sense the confidence that Americans feel again, in a very real sense. It's like a steel worker said in Granite City, Illinois yesterday, with tears in his eyes. He said, "We're back." And I sense that all across the country. People see in President Trump someone who has a boundless confidence in the American future, but also they see a president who's been keeping his promises to cut taxes, roll back red tape, unleash American energy, and the American people are responding. I mean, the second quarter numbers, 4.1% growth, on track this year for 3% growth. After 16 years that averaged less than 2%, it's a testament to the president's determination and leadership. It's a testament to the members of Congress and partners in the Republican majorities that have supported the president. And it's also a testament to the ingenuity, the resilience, the determination, and the confidence of the American people in President Trump's vision.
That ingenuity is being robbed by the Chinese. Let's talk China for a moment, because the president is using tariffs as a way to leverage to get the Chinese from stop stealing from us. We know that China has been stealing intellectual property for decades, transferring technology. Are tariffs the answer to get them to stop? They won't even admit they're doing it.
When you look at our trade deficit around the world, nearly $800 billion on an annual basis. Maria, as you know well, fully half of that is with China. I mean, for too long, China has had virtually unfettered access to the American economy and the American consumer. And American companies have faced significant barriers. And the issues that you raise represent a genuine threat to our economy. It's absolutely essential that we protect intellectual property from being stolen by interest in China. It's absolutely essential that we end the forced technology transfers that exist. Well, we remain confident as the President takes a strong stand and we continue to pursue a policy of raising barriers until we achieve a reciprocal relationship with China. I truly believe, based on the relationship that President Trump has forged with President Xi, and frankly, based on some things that President Xi has said on precisely those issues. A recent speech several months ago, President Xi, many reported for the very first time, talked about the need to address and protect intellectual property and end forced technology transfers. And we believe raising those issues and recognizing the need for a more fair and balanced trade relationship gives us hope that we can improve this relationship. And make no mistake about it, President Trump is going to continue to stand strong until we achieve free, fair, and reciprocal trade relationship with China.
I've got to ask you about access to you and the President and this White House. Was it necessary to throw out Caitlin Collins from CNN the other day? What happened?
Well, let me say that this administration believes in the freedom of the press. And President Trump and our entire administration have provided extraordinary access to the media. The President answers so many questions in so many different settings, and I can assure you that we'll continue to do that. But maintaining the decorum that is due at the White House, I think, is an issue that we'll continue to work forward. But I'm very confident that whether it be with that network or any members of the media, that we'll continue to work in a way that ensures the access of the American people to this administration and to all the incredible progress we're making.
Because on this day, she was the pool reporter, so she was actually representing all of us. I mean, did you feel like kicking her out kicked out everybody?
Well, I would leave that decision to the White House staff, and I just remain very confident. Look, the relationship between any White House and any press corps is always, is always healthy and robust, and occasionally represents disagreements. I'm confident that they'll be able to work out this relationship in a positive way. We'll make sure that every network, every major news organization continues to have access, because we stand for the freedom of the press in this White House.